Hi, or should I say, Ohayo gozaimasu. My name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The History Squad. Today's film is about the atomic bombing of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, August 1945. But included in our film is the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a Japanese gentleman who actually survived both the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. An incredible story indeed. What inspired me to make this little film was a conversation I had at a family barbecue with regards to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, and we were having a good old chat about this. And then a question was put directly to me, what would happen if the Russians dropped a nuclear bomb on the Ukraine? The debate that followed was quite intense, but I very quickly realised that most of the people who were talking had no idea what a nuclear bomb really was and the devastation it could cause. So I've been doing a little bit of research, and one or two of the things that have popped up have surprised me. So the bombing raid on Hiroshima, August the 6th, 1945. The bomb was released 8:15 a.m. rush hour, and it explodes 2,000 feet above Hiroshima. That's an airburst. Now this bomb itself, little boy, was 10 foot long. Imagine the size of that for a bomb. 10 foot long, 30 inches across. Its power, it contained 15 kilotons of TNT, and it will destroy 4 square miles of the city of Hiroshima. The actual target on Hiroshima was the Ioi Bridge, but they missed by about 800 feet and the bomb exploded above the Shima Medical Clinic. They say anything up to 80,000 people were burned alive, incinerated straight away. And the numbers fluctuate as to how many people died afterwards from sickness and their injuries. I've read one account that it was another 80,000. Now, for 80,000 people to die in Hiroshima, just like that, that was 30% of the population. And you imagine the disruption. No fire brigade, no medical help. Nobody had ever dropped an atomic bomb before. Nobody knew about radiation sickness. But this was just the beginning. So the Americans launched a second raid and dropped a nuclear bomb on August the 9th on the city of Nagasaki. The bomb was called Fat Man, that was the nickname, referring allegedly to Winston Churchill. But this bomb contained 21 kilotons of TNT. Now when it exploded, it instantly killed 40,000 people in Nagasaki, half the amount of those in Hiroshima. Apparently the reason was that Nagasaki had an awful lot of rivers and water surrounding it and also within it. But 40,000 dead. Instant. It's devastating. Now, as many of you probably know, the reason the United States dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was to bring the Second World War to a speedy end. Now, the decision to drop the second bomb, the bomb that landed on Nagasaki, was taken on the 7th of August. And the reason behind the second bomb was to send a message to the Japanese. We've got lots of these bombs. If need, we will bomb Japan out of existence. But there's another reason. He sent a big message to the Soviet Union. Hey, look what we've got. Now, once the message had sunk in, Emperor Hirohito announced the surrender of the Japanese, unconditional surrender, on the 15th of August. And on the 2nd of September, the surrender documents were signed in Tokyo Bay on board USS Missouri. Presiding over this surrender ceremony on the USS Missouri was General McArthur, and he made quite a fantastic speech, and the closing words to that speech are, "Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world and that God will preserve it always. These proceedings are closed." Can you imagine being a crew member on Enola Gay on that fateful day when they dropped that bomb on Hiroshima? Do you know they didn't feel the blast until they'd been flying over 11 miles away from the scene? And when they looked back and they saw that mushroom cloud and the area of devastation. In fact, the co-pilot, Captain Robert Lewis, he said, "Oh my God, what have we done?" But that's a kind of a popular picture, isn't it? The Enola Gay is flying away and there might be another aeroplane filming it. Well, in fact, it was 6 aircraft. You got Enola Gay, the camera plane, the observation plane, and 3 weather reconnaissance planes, as well as a 7th, which was actually on the ground at Iwo Jima, which was the reserve interceptor, the reserve bomber in case Enola Gay broke down. But it's interesting that as they approached the Japanese mainland, they were picked up by Japanese radar and sirens were sounded. But the civil population, bless them, were just so fed up of raid after raid, they basically ignored the warnings. Little did they know what was about to happen. Incredibly, it's said that 100 people at least survived both nuclear blasts, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. However, only one person was officially recognized after the war by the Japanese government. Tsutomu Yamaguchi, 29 years of age, an engineer for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. He designed oil tankers. Now, he was on a 3-month secondment to Hiroshima from Nagasaki. And on the last day, first thing in the morning, he's making his way to the railway station with his 2 friends. Now I'm going to read their names. It's important I get these right. His 2 friends, Akira Iwanaga and Kiyoshi Saito. As they go into the railway station, Yamaguchi realizes, "Oh my goodness, I've left my travel warrant behind." So he runs back to the hotel. His 2 friends continue on. He gets his travel warrant, and as he steps out of the hotel, just before 8:15 on that terrible morning, he sees an aircraft. Not unusual. But then he notices what he thinks are 2 parachutes coming down. And then a blinding flash. He was over 3 kilometers from ground zero. And yet he lost his sight temporarily. His eardrums were burst and his upper torso was actually burned. But he did manage to find his way down into a shelter where he was reunited with his colleagues. The next morning, I presume his sight has recovered. They were there to witness the sheer devastation of Hiroshima. But ironically, they were also able to return to Nagasaki. So, Yamaguchi and his friends have returned home to Nagasaki. Come 9th of August, he is back at work, bandaged up, beaten, but still working. He's in fact having a meeting with his boss, and his boss is incredulous. He does not believe Yamaguchi about his experiences at Hiroshima with the bomb. He says, "You're a scientist, you shouldn't believe in such fantasies." And then at 11:08 a.m., there is an air raid warning, and they all begin to make their way out of the building down into the air raid shelter, and there is a blinding flash. It is, of course, the second nuclear explosion. Yamaguchi survives, almost unscathed. He was once again 3 kilometers from ground zero, but this time it would appear the building shielded him somewhat. Interestingly, Yamaguchi hardly spoke about his experiences at Hiroshima and Nagasaki until he was in his 80s. He wrote a book of poems called A Raft of Corpses, and then people realized that he'd been in both of the explosions. He was a staunch supporter of nuclear disarmament, and I'm hardly surprised at that. He appeared at film premieres about the subject and gave talks on his experiences. He lived until 2010. He was 93 when he died of stomach cancer. His wife had also lived a long life. She died when she was 88. But interestingly, his daughter said he only registered as a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing. He felt that registering for both, it would have been disrespectful to those who were not so fortunate. What an honourable man he must have been. It's amazing when you look at the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They were incredible, terribly destructive, but they pale into insignificance when you compare them with today's nuclear weapons that we have. If you look at little boy dropped on Hiroshima. That was 15 kilotons of TNT. Fat man on Nagasaki, 21 kilotons of explosives. But then compare it to today. The United States, submarine launched Trident. That missile contains 455 kilotons of TNT. And then a Soviet launched missile, 800 kilotons of explosive. You know, even a 100 kiloton nuclear weapon dropped on New York City, heaven forbid, could lead easily to over 500,000 deaths instantly. Well, that was a bit of doom and gloom, wasn't it? I suppose it's a bit hard for me to say I hope you enjoyed that video. Let's say I hope you found this film interesting. If you did, like, share and subscribe. And before I go, a quick mention to some of my Patreon members. We have Kat, Joel Belding and John Strawmeyer. Hey guys, thanks a million. Bye for now.